Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. This is Laura of Crafty not Shifty, and today I wanted to share with you a little bit more information about Stamp Junkies, JunkieFest and this card class that I taught. Okay, so first let's talk about Stamp Junkies. Stamp Junkies, for those who don't know, is a Facebook group, and there are almost 30,000 people in this Facebook group, all of whom are stampers, card makers, scrapbookers, general creatives, and it's a really nice community to ask questions or to get inspiration and ideas and to just generally interact with some other crafters. Certainly for me, when I started this hobby, it's quite a lonely hobby. You sit in your craft room and you make things, but you really find your friends and your community and your crafty family online in blogs and forums and Facebook groups, and certainly that's what Stamp Junkies is really great for. So JunkieFest was born of the idea of different members of Stamp Junkies wanting to get together and craft together, and we're fortunate enough that Chris Dayton organised the Stamp Junkies event in Minneapolis, and we had over 100, I don't know the exact number, maybe around 130 people attending, including the teachers and some of the various other sponsors with their make and takes. And it was spectacular. We had a couple of days of classes, of fun, of laughter. I mean, the day started at 8 AM in the morning and they were kicking us out of that room at closing time at kind of, 11, 12 o'clock at night. So it really was so much fun. Each person that attended got to choose the classes that they wanted to be a part of. There were some spectacular teachers there, and I'm so grateful that this year I was invited to be one of the teachers, so I held a 2-hour interactive card making class. For my class, because I don't manufacture products and because I don't own a brand, other than maybe Crafty not Shifty, if we could call that a brand, I don't make any card making products. Therefore, I was able to have the freedom to reach out to different companies that I really enjoy their products and that I like working with, and ask them if they would like to be a part of my class, and I'm extremely fortunate that they said yes. So for my class we made these 4 cards, and I won't go into too much detail here because following straight on for this will be a dive into the goodie bags that everybody who attended my class received, and also a step-by-step to make each of these. I know, I'm trying to record. I know, don't lick my face. Are you tired? Okay, so let's dig right into this A4 Ziploc bag. Everybody that attended my class received one of these bags and everything in it was theirs to take away. They had the 4 different card packages, and then also these Lakeland watercolour pencils and a strip of Sticks to Anything foam strips. These are brilliant for making interactive cards or even for just making shaker cards. Because it's pre-cut into these thin strips, it works really well. They also received a Heffy Doodle Interactively Yours stamp set. This is a brilliant stamp set for anyone who likes to make interactive cards, which hopefully everybody who attended now is, if they weren't already. And then here is the water brush. This is a Kuretake, I think I'm pronouncing that right, water brush, and then some craft glue as well. I made sure to print out the instructions in case anybody was a lot faster than the speed I was teaching or a lot slower. You could follow along the instructions at your own pace. And then here I don't actually have the exact 2 examples. Love from Lizi donated a beautifully packaged set of 4 peel-offs for everybody that attended the class. And if you haven't seen those peel-offs yet, they're these really thin strips of stickers, I guess, and they're really great for adding along the edge of where your paper joins together or as an accent piece on your card. So it wasn't these exact 4 colours, I just grabbed 4 from my stash, and they were packaged really beautifully, not just loose as I have them here. So then I had some foiled paper donated by Rinea. I've just taken this from my stash. We didn't have these holes punched out of the pieces that I gave out, but they gave out a couple of different pieces in their smooth finish, which is always gold on the back, and then also when you've got this star design on them, the colour is the same on the front and the back. So they gave out a couple of sample pieces, and there was a small piece like this stapled to the front of their packaging, so you could have a quick play to understand how this product works. I do have some videos on my channel showing how this product works and also showing the booth at Creativation, but it's essentially a paper with foil fused to either side, and you can see that when you bend and twist it, it holds its shape, and that means you can get some really interesting and cool effects with this. As I say, I have some more videos showcasing this product on my channel, and you can definitely go and check them out if you want to find out more. So let's jump right in with card number 1, and I'm going to start by colouring this tab that I have here using the pencils from the pack and just blending that out with the water brush. I won't show you the full colouring, but I'll just give you an idea of how these pencils work when you lay down the colour and then you add some water to blend it out. The image that I'm colouring is from the Lawn Fawn Costume Party stamps, and this tab that I'm colouring on is from the Magic Colour Slider die set, also from Lawn Fawn. I was fortunate enough to be able to use these products in my class, and Lawn Fawn also donated some prizes and giveaways as spot prizes in the class. So here I have a piece of Sugar Plum cardstock, and it's been cut using that colour slider die set, and I'm just going to add one of the Hefty Doodle stamps on the front, and this stamp says Interactively Yours. I made sure to check which side the stitching and detail had been pressed into so I could make sure I was stamping on the front of this section, and then I'll also stamp Pull here from the Hefty Doodle set onto this tiny tab which was cut from the same paper and the same die set. I'm using my brand new Mini Misty to do this stamping, and you certainly don't have to, you could just use a block and some ink, but as I've got the Misty tool I decided to make use of it and make sure I get perfect stamping, which came in really handy here when I didn't press hard enough on this particular image. I'm using my favourite sentiment ink, which is VersaFine Onyx Black, and then I'll go ahead and stick this piece of paper down to my card base. So I actually added the glue directly to the card base. As a general rule of thumb for me, if I'm sticking two things together and they're the same size, I apply the glue to the thicker piece. I feel like it works a little bit better that way for me. So here I have a piece of extremely thick acetate, and this is how we're going to make the magic colour slide piece. It's really important to note that when you stick these two pieces together, you only attach the adhesive to the tab section at the top, and I'm just trimming off any excess here because I don't have double-sided tape that is thin enough, and I think that double-sided tape works best for this because you get an instant stick and hold. The second thing is that you want to make sure that the outline of each of these images lines up perfectly. You really want to take your time with this step because if the two images don't line up perfectly, it will ruin the effect of the magic of this interactive card. So here I have just a white piece of paper that will sit between those two images, and this is what will allow the colour shift to go from a black and white image to a fully coloured image, as you'll see in just a minute. So I've got this piece here and I'm going to flip it away from me, so if I close it up I can see that my stamping is facing towards me and I can read it. That's how I know I've got this the right way round. And then I'm going to take this U shape, which we joked about in class and said that this was actually I started calling it a horseshoe and was very quickly corrected that it must be a unicorn shoe since we're using a unicorn image. So I'm going to take my little unicorn shoe and apply some adhesive and then just place that in the bottom corners. You want to take care not to do what I've just done and drop it on top of your card, but if you do, you can just use a scrap towel or some kitchen roll or paper towel just to mop up any of that extra adhesive as I'm doing here before it dries, because you don't want any of this area to be sticky, otherwise your slider won't slide. So I've added some glue to these tab pieces. I've actually cut two of these, one for the back and one for the front. I feel like it works a little bit better this way because you get a nice clean finished edge when you pull this piece out and you can see the back of it. So I'm just using my fingers to press that in place, and then I'll go ahead and pop this inside my mechanism. I did leave this to dry for a couple of minutes because I'd used wet glue on the tabs, and then you can see I'm just going to work this in and out. I talked about during the class how because the acetate is so thick and the watercolour paper is so thick, you kind of have to encourage this piece out the first couple of times. There's nothing complicated about it, you just need to gently pull and kind of wiggle side to side, left and right, to make sure that that opening is large enough and smooth enough along any of those cut edges that you get a nice smooth transition as you pull this piece in and out. I find that with a lot of interactive dies you kind of have to give them that encouragement. I know certainly working with the pivot pop-up you have to kind of open and close your card 4 or 5 times before it gets that muscle memory of what it's supposed to do, and then it works perfectly. And I've found that it's similar with this piece here, so don't be discouraged if you have a little bit of resistance as you first try to use this. So I've gone ahead and added some double-sided sticky tape to the outside edges of this unicorn shoe, and then I'll just peel off the backing and press that down in place to seal my slider mechanism into place. So now I have a fully functioning magic colour slider. I really like the way that this works, and you may have seen this used in a slightly different way, I kind of adapted some of the videos that I've seen using this product to make it work a little bit differently, so it actually pulls up that front image with the coloured image in the background, and for me that's my preferred way to use this piece. So if you already have this dies but you haven't seen them used in this way, I definitely encourage you to give it a try so you can get another fun use out of this product. Again, I'm taking some more of those sticks to foam and I'm adding it to the back of this mechanism, peeling off the backing, and then I'll stick that down on top of the card. I think it's nice to have a colourful background because this card does look so plain when you've got it in the neutral position where it looks black and white, but then I love that pop of colour as you lift it up. So on to card 2, this is another Lawn Fawn product, and this is the Lawn Fawn Reveal Wheel die and also the ice cream add-on. So on this scalloped circle piece there are actually some embossed lines. I've gone ahead and outlined those with a pencil, but that's just so you can see them. The reason I do that is that I like the turning piece of this wheel to stay white. So I've only coloured up to where those embossed lines are. They come in really handy to make sure that the edge of your image is white, and they also come in handy when you're putting this piece together. So I flipped over my coloured piece and I added the small wheel and then secured those two together using a small brad or a split pin. On the back of the wheel I'm adding 3 foam adhesive squares and I'm just leaving the backing on these for the time being. So we talked about those embossing lines. This is where the magic happens. You slide those and so each of them is just slightly hidden outside of view on your card. So here we have the ice cream. We just push the piece up until it's hidden and then push towards the side until the side of that piece is hidden behind the scalloped circle. So I hope that makes sense. Essentially we want to make sure that this wheel is in the exact right position, and the way to do that is to make sure those embossed lines are just ever so slightly out of view of your die cut element and also the area where you spin the card. So I added some more of the sticks to foam all around this piece and then stuck that down. To finish this off, I'll need the ice cream from the front. As I mentioned earlier, this is using the ice cream add-on, it's the Sweetest flavour add-on, and it has this die for the ice cream as well as the stamps and the sentiment that I've used on the front here. So I'm sticking all of that together using some more glue and just using my tweezers to help me place that perfectly on the card. So you can see now we have the cone element of our ice cream and it's almost finished. We just need to add this to a card base. Because we already have some dimension inside of this piece, you can go ahead and add it flat to your card, or you can use some more adhesive, but it will spin perfectly just with the adhesive inside of your element that you've created. So the recipient knows what to do with this card. I'm going to use another one of the Hefty Doodle stamps, and I'm just going to stamp Spin Me just next to this little notch here where we can go ahead and spin that scalloped piece and make the ice cream change flavour. So I really love the reveal wheel and the add-ons, and I've seen some sneak peeks of some additional add-ons that are going to be coming soon from Lawn Fawn. Card number 3 has a light up element over this ink blended panel, so I'm just using my finger here to decide exactly where I want the light to be, and I'll actually double check this twice just to make sure it's in the perfect position. I'll just lay the piece of paper over the top and use my finger to decide exactly where that light should be, and then I'll hold that in place and draw the circle, and then I do the exact same thing for where I want the battery to be. I'm going to use this piece of paper here and call it the house. This will be the house for the battery, it's where we want it to live, it's where we want the on and off button to be, and it's also going to help with the analogy that I like to use to help when teaching these cards. I like to use the analogy of a homeowner and a burglar. Please stick with me, it will hopefully make sense in just a minute. And we're going to go ahead and draw out our circuit, keeping that in mind. I like to draw the circuit out first because I think it helps when trying to plan where the lights will be, especially when you start to add multiple lights to a circuit. It's pretty straightforward for just one, and I'll show you it here. So starting at the light, we want to join a straight line, which is the homeowner. He will go straight into the house using the front door, and then we'll have our negative line, which is the burglar, and he'll work his way to the back of the house, climb up onto the roof, and then break in through that entry point. We do not want these two people to meet. A homeowner and a burglar don't want to meet in real life, and so we want to make sure at no point these two lines intersect. So I'll zoom in a minute and I'll actually use a darker pen so hopefully you can see this a little bit more clearly. Okay, so we drew where we wanted the light to be. From there we decided we'd have a positive and a negative route. The positive route is our homeowner who goes straight in the front door, and the negative route is the burglar who goes round the back, up onto the roof and into the house. Once we're happy with how that circuit looks, we can go ahead and use the copper foil tape to create the actual circuit. This is just a sticky back tape, so it works exactly the same as sticking down any stickers or double-sided adhesive tape. You just go ahead and press that down. Anytime you get to a turning point, I find it easiest to pull the tape in the opposite direction that you want to go in and then fold it back on itself. You can layer up this tape, and I will show you that in just a moment. If you cut too little tape or if you make a mistake, you can simply trim and continue. So again, the burglar is starting at the light and he's making sure that he doesn't run into the homeowner. Those two pieces of wire cannot touch. I'm then at a turning point, so I'm going to pull in the opposite direction, so straight upwards, and then pull straight down, and that's how I get a nice easy turn. Again, I want to go left, so I'll pull the copper tape away to the right, and then fold it back on itself towards the left, so it can climb up onto that roof and then break in. So here I'm not going to use enough tape. I've cut enough here, but I'm actually going to use slightly too short so I can show you how you can layer these pieces of tape. So as I fold it over, I'm just going to rip the tape here so I don't have enough to make a good connection. And then I'll go ahead and layer this up later on after I show you how it doesn't work. So we broke into the house, but barely. There's not enough there to complete the circuit. We don't want these two people to meet. Not that they're really people, but I'll show you in a minute how we can fix this mistake. My top tip for creating one of these cards would be to burnish all of your tape. You want to make sure that you've got a really good, clear connection, so you want to use either the back of your nail or a bone folder just to burnish all of that in place. So these here are our chibi lights. They are as easy to use as any sticker, and they have these connective elements on them, and you just want to lay those on top of your tape. It's quite difficult to see in the video and somewhat difficult to see in real life, but you want to make sure that the positive piece is that long end and the negative piece is in the point. Here again, I've made sure that the battery is facing downwards on the positive side so it connects to the positive tape. Here I'm just going to add an extra piece of the copper tape after showing how it doesn't complete the circuit, but then once we've layered that tape up and we have enough for it to touch the battery on both sides, it confidently lights up that light, and it's just beautiful. So once again, I'm just showing we've got all of the positives in the same direction and all of the negatives in the same direction. Finally, to make sure that the battery can't leave home, we want to make sure that it stays in that position. I'm just building a wall of foam tape on 3 sides, and I'm leaving the backing on this. This will act as the on and off switch, so we don't want to remove that backing tape because the first time you press this down, it will stick in place. Now, I've had really good success using just one single layer of foam tape. A couple of the ladies in the class did find that they had to use 2 layers, so do keep that in mind if you're recreating this. So I just went ahead and stuck that top panel in place using a single layer of foam adhesive using the Sticks 2 strips again, and you can see what the card looks like when it's not being pressed and then when that light is engaged. Okay, it's time for the final card, and this one uses the Rinea foiled paper. I've gone ahead and die cut a couple of flower elements using some Sizzix dies, and I'm just going to stick this patterned paper onto the back of my card, and then I'll go ahead and use my glue just to add tiny little dots of adhesive all over this thin hello, and this was cut from a Concord and 9th die. I'm just using my tweezers to hold this in place because it will be really sticky once I pick it up, and this will help me place it down onto the black outline. I love these sets of dies because it cuts a large and a thin version of the sentiment, so you can have the actual sentiment that you want and then a layering piece in the background, and it's really easy just to line those up. I'm just using my towel to pick up any extra adhesive that's squeezed out the side, and then I'll go ahead and add some more of that glue on the back and stick it onto the card base. You can see it's a really nice size to fit on an A2 size note card, and it's a really beautiful big element on its own, but then I wanted to use the Rinea foil just to add something really special with these foiled flowers. To put those flowers together, I again am using my trusty tweezers, and these are reverse tweezers, so when you're not holding them it actually clamps the item in place, which definitely helps for something like this. So I started at the end and I'm just slowly twisting this around and with the Rinea foil, because it will hold its shape, I actually like to do this twice. So I do it the first time and then I sort of let it go and let it relax, kind of play with it, shake it around so it loosens up just a little bit, and then I'll set that to one side before I think about adding any adhesive. I'm going to do the exact same thing with the small piece. And for anyone who's looking at the lump that is, or this series of lumps that's on my left hand, I was mauled by mosquitoes on my flight home. I think they snuck on the flight and they fed on me for the entire journey because I had no mosquito bites whatsoever while I was away, and I am covered in them now. I've been home a week now and I'm still covered. I've got 6 just on my left calf. So yeah, they're causing me some problems. So once I went ahead and re-rolled these using some glue dots, I just used my tweezers and my hands to just curl the edges of each of those petals. And because this is Rinea foil, which will hold its shape, it just keeps that beautiful curved edge to the flowers. Now that I'm happy with how they look, I'll add some adhesive to the back of the flowers and also to my card to make sure I get a really good stick, and just place those down underneath the hello sentiment. I really think something like this adds something extra special to a card because it's such a large 3D element, and you should definitely check out this foil product. Okay, so now I'll show a quick recap of all of these cards. We have the Lawn Fawn Magic Colour Slider featuring a Costume Party stamp. Then I have the Lawn Fawn Reveal Wheel using the Sweetest flavour stamp set and the Sweetest flavour add-on dies. Then we had the Light Up card using an ink blended background and a silhouette stamp, and then the Chibitronics to make it light up. And then last but not least, I have the Hello card using the Concord and 9th sentiment dies and Rinea foiled paper along with the Sizzix Big dies. Last but not least, I wanted to say a huge thank you to the brands that helped make this possible for me. Love from Lizi, Lawn Fawn, Heffy Doodle, Chibitronics, Rinea and Sticks to Anything. Thank you for allowing me to feature your products and for providing products for the giveaway bags. Lizi went the extra mile and actually came along and helped me teach in the class, so a huge shout out to her. Thank you all for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed this video. It's a little different to usual, but I wanted to be able to share my class with those who couldn't attend JunkieFest. If you're not already a subscriber, I'd love to have you be one, and you can go ahead and click the button on the screen right now to join. And that is all from me today, and I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.